Hello, everyone. This is James Song here. Welcome back to the TOEFL Show. This is episode 21, and I have a great show ready for you right now. I'm giving you a full lecture on TOEFL Listening Practice Test 2, which was the last episode, episode 20. So this lecture will include complete note-taking and answers and explanations on every single question of this lecture passage. So without further ado, let's get started by listening to the lecture passage and taking some notes. Let's go, guys.
Listen to part of a lecture in a literature class. All right, so let me close today's class with some thoughts to keep in mind while you're doing tonight's assignment. You'll be reading one of Ralph Waldo Emerson's best-known essays, Self-Reliance, and comparing it with his poems and other works. I think this essay has the potential to be quite meaningful for all of you, as young people who probably wonder about things like truth and where your lives are going, all sorts of profound questions. Knowing something about Emerson's philosophies will help you when you read Self-Reliance. And basically, one of the main beliefs that he had was about truth. Not that it's something that we can be taught. Emerson says it's found within ourselves. So this truth, the idea that it's in each one of us, is one of the first points that you'll see Emerson making in this essay. It's a bit abstract, but he's very into each person believing his or her own thought, believing in yourself, the thought or conviction that's true for you. But actually, he ties that in with a sort of universal truth, something that everyone knows but doesn't realize they know. Most of us aren't in touch with ourselves, in a way, so we just aren't capable of recognizing profound truths. It takes geniuses, people like, say, Shakespeare, who are unique because when they have a glimpse of this truth, this universal truth, they pay attention to it and express it, and don't just dismiss it like most people do. So Emerson is really into each individual believing in and trusting him or herself. You'll see that he writes about, well, first, conformity. He criticizes the people of his time for abandoning their own minds and their own wills for the sake of conformity and consistency. They try to fit in with the rest of the world, even though it's at odds with their beliefs and their identities. Therefore, it's best to be a nonconformist, to do your own thing, not worrying about what other people think. That's an important point. He really drives this argument home throughout the essay. When you're reading, I want you to think about that and why that kind of thought would be relevant to the readers of his time. Remember, this is 1838. Self-reliance was a novel idea at the time, and United States citizens were less secure about themselves as individuals and as Americans. The country as a whole was trying to define itself. Emerson wanted to give people something to really think about, help them find their own way, and what it meant to be who they were. So that's something that I think is definitely as relevant today as it was then. Probably, especially among young adults like yourselves. You know, college being a time to sort of really think about who you are and where you're going. Now, we already said that Emerson really emphasized nonconformity, right? As a way to sort of not lose your own self and identity in the world, to have your own truth and not be afraid to listen to it. Well, he takes it a step further. Not conforming also means not conforming with yourself or your past. What does that mean? Well, if you've always been a certain way or done a certain thing, but it's not working for you anymore, or you're not content, Emerson says that it would be foolish to be consistent even with our own past. Focus on the future, he says. That's what matters more. Inconsistency is good. He talks about a ship's voyage, and this is one of the most famous bits of the essay, how the best voyage is made up of zigzag lines. Up close, it seems a little all over the place, but from farther away the true path shows, and in the end it justifies all the turns along the way. So don't worry if you're not sure where you're headed or what your long-term goals are. Stay true to yourself and it'll make sense in the end. I mean, I can attest to that. Before I was a literature professor, I was an accountant. Before that, I was a newspaper reporter. My life has taken some pretty interesting turns, and here I am, very happy with my experiences and where they've brought me. If you rely on yourself and trust your own talents, your own interests, don't worry. Your path will make sense in the end.
Okay. Did you get everything down? Okay. So as we always do, we'll go to the top and I will explain to you each and every single word I have written down, I have taken down in these notes and explain to you. Then you will be able to understand this lecture completely. Okay, so let's go to the top and start doing that now. All right, everyone, let's go, guys. I'm at the top of my notes, so I'll go through each and every word and explain to you so you understand this passage in full. So literature class, this is, and the professor starts by saying, as I close the class, so as I end this class, I want to tell you something about tonight's assignment, that work you have to do, okay? So tonight you have to read Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, and also read some poems of Emerson and compare it. So that's your task tonight. That's your assignment. So let me tell you a little bit to help you when you do the assignment tonight, right? And this essay, Self-Reliance, might be very meaningful for you as a young adult, college student yourself, because it talks about the truth and life and where you are going in life and things like that, right? So to understand self-reliance, it would be good to understand the author Emerson's philosophy. And the philosophy he had about the truth was that the truth was not something that it can be taught, meaning in this context, from Emerson's perspective, truth is not from outside, not something you can learn. It is within ourselves, meaning truth is within each and every individual, inside of human being, not outside, okay? So that was Emerson's philosophy, okay? And so because truth is inside in ourselves, not outside, it's important to, believe your own thought and believe in yourself, trust yourself. And this is important phrase, the theme, because it repeats 2 or 3 times throughout this passage. So when you go to the TOEFL exam, the listening part, but also when you read anything or listening to anything, if it's something important, probably it's going to be stated more than once, okay? Twice, 3 times, or even 4 times, okay? So for Emerson, because everybody has to find the truth within ourselves, okay? Believing yourself, believing your own thought is important. You have to believe yourself to find the truth that is inside you, right? Okay? And he ties this with a universal truth, like an absolute truth to everyone, right? And universal truth, unfortunately, most people, many people, almost everyone, they know, they have to know because it's within themselves. Like, it's not something you have to learn. It's inside of you, but you don't realize. Okay, very philosophical, right? Yeah. So universal truth is that truth is inside of ourselves, but many people, if not everyone, most people, they know, they have to know. It's inside of them, but they don't realize they know, right? They don't realize they know. They don't listen to themselves. They don't try to find the truth within themselves. They don't. Okay? Only geniuses like Shakespeare can do this. So when they get a little bit of truth, universal truth from himself, then he doesn't ignore, he doesn't dismiss, he listens to the truth, universal truth from inside of him, okay? And then he expresses that truth from himself. So it's very rare, right? Only geniuses can realize that. Normal people cannot realize the universal truth, unfortunately. And again, see, I told you this was like a main theme, very important, right? And he says it again, right? I mean, obviously, so if you want to be like Shakespeare or geniuses that can find the universal truth, then you have to find it inside of you. So you have to believe yourself, believe in yourself, and trust yourself, right? Okay. So he talks about conformity. So first part, okay, essay, he talks about the conformity, right? Although truth was the first point he talks about, the professor said first, he talks about conformity, and he criticizes people in his time, probably a long time ago, right? He criticized people who conform because they try to fit in, but that's not being themselves, okay? What's the main theme already developing here? Trust yourself and believe your own thought and listen to that little voice inside of you to seek and attain universal truth, right? Okay? So he didn't like conformity, and he even criticized people because in his time, people were conforming too much. Okay, so Emerson is saying you should not conform. All right, and Professor directly tells us, right? So Emerson says it's better to be non-conformist, right? Do your own thing. Don't worry about other people. And Professor said this is important part of the essay. So ching ching, right? So if you understand this, know this part, probably you'll get hopefully 1 or 2 questions from this content right here. Okay, right? And then next paragraph, he moves on to think about how this idea, becoming non-conformist, do your own thing, is really important and relevant, around his time, right? This was 1838. So self-reliance, the title of this essay, was very novel idea, meaning it's new. It's people are not used to it. People do not know this idea, right? And U.S. citizens were less secure themselves as individual and Americans, right? So a little bit of inference required here, right? Why do you think U.S. citizens are less secure themselves as individual and as American now? What do you think? 2024? Definitely not. Okay. US people, I think in general, I'm generalizing here, but kind of, like just joking partly, they would be very confident and they would be very sure of themselves because, US is #1 country in the world, the most powerful country in the world in terms of, economy, military, and whatever, right? So you have to understand it's so long ago, and America is very young country in terms of their history or baby at this time, right? So probably that's the reason why, because it's such a new country, they are not really secure, confident about who they are. So that's why they conform so much. Okay, they just say yes, right? Rather than doing whatever you want. Okay, you understand that now, right? So bit of inference required. And also, I didn't get to write it down because it was so quick. But the next line after here, I remember it was something like professor said, U.S. as a country was trying to define itself. It meaning, the country was really starting out and try to, make sure that, country is developing, starting well, right? Okay. So you can think about that as well when you understand why US people were not very secure about themselves. They were insecure because it was such a young country. It just started out, right? So the Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, really tell American people to find your own way, be confident, right? Be secure, and teach them who they are, okay? So this is how it is, self-reliance, especially this part, being conformist is good. Do your own thing is good. Just listening to other people and following is bad because they were a little insecure. So Emerson's message was, do your own thing. Okay. All right. Know who you are and do your own thing. Listen to yourself. Right. That's the truth. That's the universal truth. Right. But this is such a great message that next paragraph, professor says, it's still relevant today. Okay, it's not just relevant in 1838 when Emerson wrote this. It's still relevant today. Yeah, I think so, definitely. And professor says, especially for you guys, for you college student, young adults, right? Because you are in a stage to think about who I really am and where my life is going, where my life should go, right? So that's a young adults, young adults mission, okay, to accomplish, right? Right? They have a lot of worries, like who am I? What do I like? What kind of job do I want? Am I doing a good thing in college? Should I be in college? Am I doing a good thing? I'm studying very hard. Will this work out in the future? Will I get a job that I want? That kind of thing, right? So still, the idea of being non-conformist, okay, and doing your own thing is relevant in 1838 to American people, of course, and it's still relevant even today, right? 2000, right? 2024, whatever. Okay. And professor says, as I said already, so we understood the context, so we almost know what's coming next, right? So he's going to say this message right here, right? So he's saying, don't conform, okay? Be a non-conformist and seek your own truth, meaning believe in yourself, trust yourself, right? Right? And then this is quite a detailed but very important part. I remember the professor saying, Emerson, take this concept one step further, right? So don't even conform to yourself, nor conform to the past, okay? So be non-conformist, but even beyond that, right? Be non-conformist to yourself and to your past, meaning it's weird, right? It's like, don't conform to yourself. What do you mean? You have to trust yourself. So don't listen to yourself. What does this mean? Don't conform to the past. Don't follow the past. It's a bit strange. So there is further explanation given here. This is very detailed, very important part. I'm pretty confident this will come out in one of the questions. or if they want to make the detailed questions quite hard, they will try to ask detailed question within this part, I think, right? So what he means by be non-conformist, even to yourself and the past, is that if you always done the same things in the past, and if it didn't work out, if it didn't bring good result, then don't do the same thing. Change, right? So you understand now, right? So don't conform to the past. Don't do the same thing just because you did it in the past. Change it up, right? Yeah. Don't conform to yourself. Sounds weird. You have to trust yourself. But in this context, it's trying to say, change it up. Try new things, right? If it didn't work, next, right? So don't be consistent to the past. Be inconsistent. Change it up, right? Because future is more important than the past, right? Start new things. Look for the better future, right? That's more important. So that's what it means by be a non-conformist to yourself and be a non-conformist to your past. Okay? That's what it means. We all understand, right? Yeah. Change it up. Change for the future. Okay? Trust yourself, right? So he talks about the essay, self-reliance, talks about ship's voyage, ship's trip, right? Okay. And this is a famous part. And he says best voyages are often zigzag lines. Okay. So I didn't have time to write zigzag. I didn't want to. So I kind of became creative and used the image as my TOEFL notes. Okay. This is a zigzag, right? Right? Not a straight line. Okay. Zigzag is opposite to straight line, right? Okay. And then it was so quick and I just wanted to mark it. So I didn't write down all the words, but because I understood, not because I memorized or remember, because I understood, I can remember up close, it looks like it's going everywhere. Okay. It's really messy, right? It doesn't look good like a straight line, you know? But if you look at it from far away, you can find the truth. You have to, sail different way because of the wind to get to the destination, right? You cannot go straight line in life or in sailing. You cannot go straight line like this. It's not possible, right? And then at the end, when you get to the destination, okay, so I wrote starting line and destination, right? Beginning, end, right? So when you get to the end, your turns are justified, right? So you didn't go straight line. You went like this and then turn and turn again and turn again and turn again, right? But at the end, okay, it justified. We can understand why you turn to get here. So it's okay, right? Try different things. Trust yourself, okay? It's okay if you have many different turns, right? So professor continues by saying, don't worry if you are not sure about the long-term goals, if you don't have any long-term goals, or if you're worried about what will happen to you, right? Just trust yourself, be true to yourself. See how many times it first came out here, right? And second, it came out here. And third, it came out here. Do your own thing. Be non-conformist means, be yourself, right? It came out here. It came out here. So it came out at least 5 or 6 times, right? So this is the main message. Believe in your own thought. Believe yourself. Trust your own thought. Trust yourself. Trust your talent. Believe in yourself. Because the truth, universal truth, is inside of you, not outside. So it's mentioned like 6 times, right? And professor says this is really true for him, right? Telling the student, don't worry about your long-term future. Just be true to yourself. Believe in yourself. I am the example. And professor says, before he became a professor, he was an accountant. And before that, he was newspaper reporter. He had many different turns in life. He didn't just become professor from students. He did different things, right? But he's very happy with these experiences. You know, he's glad he was newspaper reporter, and then he changed to accountant, and then he changed to the professor, right? So he's very happy with his experience, and now he's very happy with him as well. He's very content, right? And he believes these different turns, these experiences have gotten him to where he is now, right? So don't worry. Don't worry about different turns. Don't worry. Don't worry too much. Just rely on yourself and trust yourself, trust your talent. And at the end, it will all work out. Meaning at the end, it will be a happy ending. You will get to the destination. Okay? Did you get all this? Yeah. So as I taught you in note-taking skills lecture before, okay, it was episode 14 and 16, right? Okay. One of the techniques I ask you to practice is make the full sentences out of your own notes to almost make a full passage based on what you have written, right? So please do that practice. You will improve very quickly. So I should practice what I preach. So here I go. I'll do that now. And then we'll move on to the answering the questions. Okay. Yeah. All right. So literature professor closes the class by talking about tonight's assignment that students have to do. That is reading Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, and comparing with his poem. And he believes, okay, actually, I'll become a professor. Okay, first person, right? I think that would be easier, right? So I'll talk like I am a professor, if I were the professor, okay? And I believe this work, essay, Self-Reliance, might be very meaningful for you because it talks about truth and life. And if you understand Emerson's philosophy, it will help you read Self-Reliance, the essay. And he believes the truth is not something that can be taught, but it's already within ourselves, within us. So, yeah, so that's the first point he makes. So he says it's very important to believe in your own thought and self. And he also relate this with universal truth in that many people, or if not everyone, know the universal truth, but they do not realize they know. They don't realize, right? Only geniuses know this universal truth like Shakespeare, because when he gets a little glimpse, little look on the universal truth, he doesn't ignore it. He doesn't dismiss it. He actually pay attention and express it, right? So it's very important to trust yourself, believe in yourself, listen to your own voice, right? So the first thing he talks about is conformity. He criticizes people in his time who conform to others' idea, because even if you want to fit in, So meaning if you even conform, it's not equal to being yourself. It's not yourself, right? You're just trying to fit in, but it's not yourself, so it's not good. So you should be non-conformist, right? Instead, you should not conform to someone else's idea. You should do your own thing. And this is an important part of this essay, self-reliance. And this is very relevant to people in his time, 1838, because self-reliance was new idea, meaning people did not know like the concept of self-reliance, and US citizens were less secure as an individual and as an American, because US was just trying to start to define itself as a country, because they just started out as a new country, right? So this Emerson self-reliance essay really help people to find their own way and help them to think about who they were. And this idea is also relevant today, not just 150, 200 years ago, right? It's relevant today because think about it, like yourself, young adults, college student, you are in a stage of really thinking about who you are and where your life is going to go. So this self-reliance idea is also relevant today. Okay. So, be non-conformist, find your own truth, trust yourself, believe in yourself, listen to yourself. But Emerson take this to one step further. He says, don't conform even to yourself or past. What this mean is that if you have done certain things, if you always been doing the same things, and then if it didn't work out or you're not happy with it, then don't be consistent. Don't do the same thing just because you did it in the past. Stop. Inconsistent is good. Doing different things, trying different things is good because future is more important than the past. And Emerson talks about the famous part of his essay when he talks about ship's voyage, that best voyages are often zigzag lines, not a straight line. And up close, it looks a bit messy and it's going everywhere. But from far away, the true voyage, true turns can be shown. And at the end, actually, it justify all the different turns, meaning only at the destination, at the end, all the different zigzag lines make sense why this ship was moving in a zigzag line, not in a straight line. We can only understand that at the end. Okay? So don't worry about your long-term goal. Okay? Just be true to yourself. I'm a good example of that. Now I'm a professor, but before I was accountant, and before that I was newspaper reporter. And I had many different turns in my life, but I'm very happy with all my experiences, and all these experiences got me to where I am, who is professor, that I'm very happy with, right? So trust yourself, rely on yourself. It will all work out at the end. Okay? How good was that? It was perfect. It was almost like restating the whole listening passage, right? I'm promising you, I'm guaranteeing you, you can all do this. If you just practice the way I ask you to practice, if you listen to the same passage multiple times, if you practice note-taking to the same passage multiple times, if you try to make the full sentences out of what you have taken, what you have written multiple times, you will be able to do exactly the same as me. I'm telling you, trust me, trust me, trust you, trust me, please. So now we completely understand. I hope we'll move to answering all 6 questions and obviously trying to get all 6 questions right. All right, let's go. Okay, guys, let's start solving all these questions, 6 of them. And let's start with question 1. What is the main purpose of the lecture? So the question type, this is GIST purpose question. And not the main idea, but the question is asking, what is the purpose? What is the reason for this lecture? Why this lecture is happening? What is the purpose of it? Okay. So before looking at ABCD, I remember professor started by saying, as I close this class, so as I finish this class now, let me give you some information. Let me help you. Let me prepare for tonight's assignment you as a student have to do. So tonight's assignment for you is read Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, and compare it with other poems and other works of Emerson. So to help you do your assignment tonight, let me tell you a little bit more about your assignment. And he talks about Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, right? Okay, so the answer before looking at ABCD is to help students do the assignment tonight. Okay, so that's the answer, right? A, to point out similarities between Emerson's essay and poems. This is wrong because it's not mentioned, but it may be a little bit tricky. A little bit. I think you realize this is a bad answer, wrong answer, but it said tonight's assignment is to read Emerson's essay on self-reliance and compare it with the poem. That's all professor said. So this lecture, if A is the answer, A is basically saying the reason for this lecture, this talk, is to point out similarities between Emerson's essay and the poems. But first, it doesn't point out any similarities between Emerson's essay and the poems. So A is completely wrong. Okay. B, to prepare the students to read an essay by Emerson. Bang. Right? So I said it in different words, but this is exactly what I said basically just now, right? To help students get ready to do their assignment, or to help students do this assignment tonight, right? So that's same as prepare the students, help them ready for tonight, prepare the students to read an essay by Emerson, which is one of the assignment they have to do. So that's the purpose. So that's why contents of the talk is talking about what? Essay by Emerson, right? Professor talks about the essay called Self-Reliance by Emerson. This is what professor does for the students. So this is exactly the answer, 100%. C, to compare Emerson's, it's not the purpose. And the if this was a purpose, the talk, the lecture has to compare something, right? But unfortunately, or fortunately, it doesn't compare anything, right? Okay. So that's the assignment. Students have to compare Emerson's essay Self-Reliance and compare it with other poems, but that's not what the content is about in this lecture, right? So it's easy, no. To compare Emerson's concept of universal truth to that of other authors, is this mentioned in any way, shape, or form in here? Fortunately or unfortunately? No. Right? Do we compare, like, other than Emerson, somebody else talks about the concept of universal truth in different ways to Emerson? Definitely not. Easy, no. D, to show the influence of early stage society on Emerson's writing. I mean, it talks about how Emerson's writing, Emerson tried to help people in society in 1838 to really help them find their own ways and find out who they were. But this is not the purpose. So it's not answering the question at all, right? The purpose of this lecture, purpose of this talk is to help students get ready to do their assignment tonight when they have to read Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance. Simple as that. Question 1, G's purpose question. The answer is B. Next question, please. Okay, moving on. Let's look at question number 2. On what basis did Emerson criticize the people of his time? Okay, so Emerson criticized the people in his time, of his time, about doing something. Okay, so if you remember, before looking at ABCD, right here, as you can see it, and of course, question type here is a detailed question. So it's nothing more than a factual question in reading. So direct answer will be given to us from the passage. So direct answer should be written in our notes, right? So Emerson criticized right here, right? People who conform too much, okay? Emerson did not like that because that's against his idea of self-reliance, rely on yourself. So Emerson encouraged people to be a non-conformist, do your own thing, don't listen to other people, don't worry about other people. So clearly it's written here, Emerson criticized who conformed, who conformed too much, okay? All right, A, they refuse to recognize the universal truth. It's wrong in 2 areas. It's not like people refuse to recognize universal truth. Emerson is saying that they do not realize, meaning it's kind of sad, like normal people cannot do this, cannot listen to themselves and find the universal truth within themselves, right? So certainly nobody refused, okay? And second, Emerson did not criticize these people at all. Second, they did not recognize the genius of certain authors. Wow, it's plural, first of all. So it's wrong because the passage only talks about Shakespeare as an example. This is really funny. Did you get it? Do you get it? Why this is funny? Because if this is right, what this is saying, people in his time, people of his time, did not recognize genius like Shakespeare. So, like, people of his time said, oh, Shakespeare is nobody. That's nothing. I don't like Shakespeare's work anyway. Ooh. Okay. So, people did not recognize the genius of certain authors like Shakespeare. And Emerson criticized these people who did not recognize a great author like Shakespeare. That's what B is saying. C, their convictions were not well defined. Wow. This is a little bit trickier, but still pretty easy, no. Because in here, during his time, Emerson's time in 1838, because the country, US, was trying to define itself, meaning in 1838, US was a very young country, just starting out, almost like a baby status in terms of a country, okay? The US people were less secure about who they were as individual and as American, because the country was just starting out, right? So some people, convictions were less defined, meaning paraphrase of less secure about themselves, of their belief, and as Americans. But certainly, what's the problem here? Emerson did not criticize these people at all, not mentioned. So pretty easy, no? Okay, so D should be the answer. As I always say, if not, I'll be in trouble. So Emerson criticized people who conform. They were people of his time were too interested in conformity. Yeah, they conform too much. Perfect answer. As I always say, detailed question. You should have the perfect notes to match the answer in detailed question. If you are doing this, then you are doing a real good job in note taking. That's a sign. Okay. So as I said 2 or 3 times, Emerson criticized people who conform. So D, they were too interested in conformity, and Emerson criticized these people. So D is the answer. Question 2, the answer is D. Next question, please. Okay, moving on to question 3. Also, it's a detailed question because the question asks, what does Emerson say about the past? Okay, so Emerson says something about the past. And before looking at the answer choices, I remember here how he talks about, he takes a step further about being a non-conformist. You should not conform to your past, right? So if you always done the same thing, you are consistent, you did a certain things all the time in the past, but if it didn't work out for you, or you are not content, meaning if you are not happy with yourself, then don't be consistent. Don't keep doing something only because you did that thing in the past. Break out of it, right? Change it up, right? Be inconsistent, because future is more important than the past, right? So what does Emerson say about the past? Past is less important than the future, or future is more important than the past. Okay. Again, detailed question, like a factual question in reading. So the listening passage or our notes should, we should have the direct, explicit answer to the question. Let's find out. A, it should guide the person's present action. That's weird. It should guide. It's like almost opposite. It should not. Don't be consistent. Focus on the future. It must be examined closely. Not mentioned. Maybe, maybe not. Okay? He just doesn't say, right? All he says is if you did something in the past, and if you did not like it, or it didn't give you a good result, then you don't have to keep doing it. That's all it says, right? Okay. See, it's less important than the future. Bang. Okay, word for word. Word for word. I told you, right? The answer should be past is less important than the future, or future is more important than the past, right? Okay. So don't be consistent. Inconsistency is good. So this is perfect answer to C, right? This is exactly the same paraphrase of what's written here. D, it lacks both clarity and universal truth. Do I need to explain this? No, I don't think so, right? So pretty easy question as well. You know, 3 wrong answers are very straightforward, and C is the answer. Okay, so quick explanation. This one, right? Question 3, the correct answer is C. Next question, please. Okay, let's move on to question 4. Question 4, ready? All right. What point does the professor make when he mentions a ship's path? Wow. Detailed question again. Little bit more difficult question, but not by much, and still same question type. So what point does the professor make when he mentions a ship's path? So when he makes ship's path, right? Ship's voyages, he's trying to say the best voyages, best path are often zigzag lines, not straight lines. And because it's zigzag, when you look at it up close, it looks a bit messy and it's everywhere. But when you look at it from far away, the path kind of, you can see the true path, what is happening. And when you get to the destination, meaning at the end of the ship's voyage, all the path that you made, different turns, okay, it justifies at the end. Meaning at the end, only when you get to the destination, the reason why you made these zigzag lines makes sense. It justifies. Oh, okay. So that's why you went that way and that way, that way, in order to get to here at the end. But you got to the destination at the end. Good job. So, okay, it justifies, right? We can understand the reasons why it is a zigzag lines, not straight line, only at the end. Okay? Okay? When the ship reaches the destination, right? Okay? Pretty philosophical, right? Pretty deep. Okay? So let's look at the answer choices. A, it is easy for people to lose sight of their true path. Definitely not, right? I mean, this is, you know, very generalizing and say, oh, they lose their true path. No, they don't lose the sight of true path, but their true path is not necessarily a straight line. Their true path may be a zigzag line that can be only seen clearly from far away. And that zigzag, their true path, only makes sense at the end. B, most people are not capable, they do not have ability of deciding which path is best for them. Definitely not mentioned. Easy no. Because for B to be right, professor has to say many people, most people, a lot of people in general, they do not have abilities to decide where to go. Okay? So B is saying many people, most people, you know, a lot of people, you know, they cannot, they don't have abilities. They don't have capabilities to choose the best path. They cannot do it for themselves. So it's almost exactly opposite to the main theme of self-reliance by Emerson, because what is the main theme Emerson is saying again and again and again and again? Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. Okay? Then at the end, what will happen? It will all work out. Okay? What does that mean? Do people have capabilities to make good decisions or not? Yeah, they do. Just be true to yourself, listen to yourself, then you make the good decision. And at the end, you'll find out, right? So B is also, A and B both are quite opposite to the answer. Okay. C, the path a person takes can only be seen. So true path, the path a person takes can only be seen clearly after the destination has been reached. So This is paraphrasing of at the end, only at the end, your path will be justified. Okay, right? So your path will be justified at the end is paraphrased as after the destination has been reached. Okay, and the path a person take can only be seen clearly. Yeah, that's what we said. So the path a person can take only be seen clearly. It justifies different turns when after the destination has been reached. What does that mean? Only at the end. Okay? Perfect, right? Perfect notes, perfect answers every single time. All right? D, a person should establish a goal before deciding which path to take. All right, we are not looking for what is common sense or what is factually right or wrong. Okay, this is English listening test, but unfortunately, something like this may be a good idea, but was never mentioned in the passage at all when the professor was explaining about ship's path. Right? Okay, so question 4, the answer is C. Next question, please. Okay, moving on. The next question. Question number 5. What does the professor imply about himself when he recounts? Okay, so it's imply, so it's inference question type. And let's talk about this now before we read on. So it's inference question. So the hint to the question may not be shown directly or explicitly in our notes or from the passage, but still to make an objective inference in TOEFL environment, right? We need to make an objective, logical inference based on our passage, based on our notes. So we cannot just use our imagination to infer naturally, right? Although it's infer, we have to be very careful that inference, that conclusion is based on what is written in our notes, meaning what was given in our listening passage. Okay? Please don't forget that. What does the professor imply about himself? Okay. When he recounts some life experiences he had before becoming a literature professor. So that is right here. Right here, right? So when they're talking about ship's voyage, the true path can be only justified at the end. And professor says, so don't worry about your long-term goals. Just be true to yourself, right? And I can attest to that, meaning I'm the great example for that. So before I was professor, I was accountant. I was newspaper reporter before that. So I had a different experience, different turns, but I'm very happy with those experiences in the past and how those experiences in the past brought him here as a literature professor now, right? So just trust yourself, okay? So that's what he said. A, he did not consider the consequences of his action. Wow, his decision, sorry. He did not consider the consequences of his decision. Wow. Pretty good wrong answer. I think this is a wrong answer, definitely, but this is a tricky one. I'll tell you in a minute. Let's go through all 4 and let's cancel out some obvious bad wrong answers if we can. B, he did not plan to become a literature professor. Yeah, that's for sure. Because yeah, it's almost like he didn't know he was going to become literature professor, right? Because he did different things. So B looks right. Okay. C, he has always tried to act consistently. Thank you. This is why I wanted to go through A, B, C, D, all of the answer choices first, because this is like really bad wrong answer, right? And this is wrong, and I don't need to explain to you, right? Like, the point of him trying to say, I was accountant before I became a professor, and before being an accountant, I was newspaper reporter. He's trying to say, he was not trying to act consistently, right? He tried different things, right? Just like how Emerson advised all of us to do. So he took his chance, he changed it up, he did different things, right? So C is exactly opposite of what Professor implied about himself, right? He has not always tried to act consistently, okay? So it's easy, no? One down. D, he has trusted in himself and his action. Yeah, this is why I told you. 100% answer, okay? So we have 100% wrong answer and 100% right answer, right? So we just need to choose which one is better, A or B, right? Because this is the main message. The whole reason he's talking about, before I was professor, I was accountant, I was newspaper reporter, I took different turns in my life, like ship's voyage, but I'm really happy with those experiences in the past I had, and those experiences I feel helped me get to where I am. So what's the whole point? He's saying this. So trust yourself, because if you trust yourself, at the end, it will be a happy ending. If you just trust yourself, rely on yourself, be self-reliant, rely on yourself and trust your talent, then at the end, it will all work out. So this is the main message from Self-Reliance by Emerson, but also Professor's main idea about Professor's example. So D is the perfect answer. All right. So why? I'm pretty clear B is the answer, right? But let's talk about a little bit more in detail to help you out, just in case some people were a little confused. Although A looks wrong answer, some may want a little bit more explanation as to why, right? If you look at the difference between A and B is very clear based on the evidence. This evidence show that he did not originally always plan to become a literature professor. He became literature professor, right? Okay. It wasn't his original grand plan, because he started out as a newspaper reporter. Probably he planned to become a newspaper reporter. I don't know. It doesn't say. But he became an accountant. So this is like a business and accounting. This is a finance occupation, job. But what is he doing now? Something very different. Not just a professor, not a business professor, not an accounting professor. He is literature professor. So this is reasonable. If you ask 100 people, all 100 people, based on right comprehension, can say, yeah, it's kind of true. Yeah. Logically, objectively, he did not plan to become a literature professor. He did not plan to become a literature professor. And the evidence is here. He was an accountant before. He was newspaper reporter before. So obviously, yeah, he did not plan originally to become a literature professor. Yeah, I can accept that. 10 out of 10 people, everyone. So this is logical. This is objective inference based on this information. But look at A. This is very subjective. I call this, in my own language in TOEFL, over inference. Right? What does that mean? You are being subjective. What does it mean, subjective in TOEFL? In my terms, without evidence. You're just thinking things based on your own will, not based on what's written in the passage or what you heard in listening passage. Okay? I'll show you why. He did not consider the consequences of his decision. Now you see, right? It's not mentioned this way. There's no evidence. Like he started out as a newspaper reporter, and then he became an accountant, and then now he became a literature professor. That doesn't mean when he started out as a newspaper reporter, he did not think about the outcome of his decision. You see what I mean? Like there's no evidence. Is there a concrete, solid evidence? Like, how do you know? You are guessing. You are imagining. Like, how do you know? Is there any evidence when he took a job as a newspaper reporter? Oh, I don't care what will happen. I don't know. I don't know what will be the result of this, but I'll just start as a newspaper reporter. That's what A says. Is there any evidence of him thinking that way? No. No evidence. Not enough evidence. So don't be subjective. Okay? So when he became an accountant, are you sure? Like, is there evidence you can use to say objectively, he did not think about the result of becoming an accountant? Really? No. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It doesn't say. There is not enough information. There is not enough evidence in the passage for us to say, okay, A is the answer. There's not enough. It's not mentioned. We don't know. As I explained it in detail, I hope and I'm sure this is very clear now why A is not the answer. Because there isn't enough information, enough evidence for us to choose A objectively. But we can for B. Okay? So I hope, I'm sure it's very clear now. That's the most important thing for me, right? So as you can clearly see and understood, question 5, inference question, the correct answers, choose 2 answers. 2 answers are B and D. Next question, please. All right, moving on. Next question. Last question. Question 6. Okay, let's do this. Why does the professor say this? So this is a short excerpt question, short passage will be played to you. So you need to listen to it. And then they say, why does professor say this? And then you need to choose one correct answer. Okay, so I'm going to play the short excerpt now. So please concentrate. Listen up. Here we go.
Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
Remember, this is 1838. Self-reliance was a novel idea at the time, and United States citizens were less secure about themselves as individuals and as Americans.
Why does the professor say this?
Remember, this is 1838.
All right, let's solve this question, okay? As you can see, I have written down notes of the short excerpt. It was just played now because I wanted to share with you my secret strategy, my original method of solving this question, okay? It will help you, so listen up. This is a function question, of course, the question type, meaning he says one thing, but that really means something else. Okay, what does he really mean? Okay, when he says this, right? So, I mean, there are several ways to solve these questions, I guess. First, you could identify it came out from here and try to get some help from the notes as well, if you want to, okay? And the second way, and probably you could just try to listen and get the feel for it and try to answer the question. So you said, remember, this was 1838. Self-reliance was a novel idea, and U.S. citizen at the time was less secure about themselves. Okay, so you understood. And the second time it played, remember, that was 1838. You probably understand just by listening to that, okay, so this idea was happening in 1838, not now. So please remember, please think what I'm telling you is happening in 1838, and then try to choose the right answer. Okay. And the third way I'm going to show you. So when you get this question, I advise you to write the full notes when the passage was playing the first time. Okay. Because if you analyze this question, there's like one long part. All of this I have written down, and they play it once again, right? Why does professor say this? And they play one more time. So they play something twice, and it's divided into two parts. And they play first part or second part only. Okay, so this is a format of this question, right? So they may have played, remember, this is 1838. Self-reliance was novel idea, and U.S. citizen was less secure about themselves at that time. Why does professor say this? And they could have said, self-reliance was a novel idea and U.S. citizen, okay? Or, remember, this is 1838. This is a format, okay? So they play once and they play twice, but they play first part or second part. Okay? And if you have written down the whole thing, when they play you the excerpt, the listening passage first time, you can actually get some hint from the part it does not play second time. You can get some extra hint. Okay? Okay? This will help you greatly in TOEFL listening test, especially if you get some difficult question. If you cannot quite get the answer 100% by listening to this part, you can remember second part and use it as a hint to make sense of your answer. Okay, let me show you. So why does professor say this? So we now know it's a pretty easy question to tell the student. Remember, this is 1838. So think 200 years ago, not now, please. Okay, so that's the answer. Okay. To suggest that United States citizens have not changed much over time. Not mentioned. And common sense wise, probably wrong as well. Okay. Probably, if we want to guess, US people are more secure about themselves now, 2024, compared to 1838, but that's a wrong way, bad way to solve this answer choice. It's wrong. Why? Because it's not mentioned. Okay? It's not mentioned. This is English test. Okay? B, to encourage the class to find more information about this time period. Wow. It may look a little bit tricky to some people, but if you really understand and read this answer choice, this is really funny. This is very, very wrong. Because if B is right, when he said remember, this is 1838. Like, why professor is saying that? To encourage class to find more information about this time period. So if B is right, professor is saying, remember, this is 1838. To what? Say to the student, come on, guys, find some more information about 1838. You need to research and know more and get some more information. That's why he is saying, remember, this is 1838. No, this is why my tip, my strategy, my secret original method works. Because if you written down the second part, you can link this to the first part. Okay? Remember, this is 1838. That's the question. But if you written down the second part, and if you use it, self-reliance is a novel idea, and U.S. citizens were less secure about themselves, and you need to link this to one to get the answer. So answer is, professor is trying to say, blah, 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 second part. But don't forget, this is happening in 1838. It connects. Okay? So if you can do this, you can clearly cancel out B as the wrong answer, right? If you use my method, you're never going to choose B as the answer. Okay? All right? Cool. C, to explain why Emerson's essay has lost some relevance. This is not mentioned. And also, this is actually wrong, because in here it says it is relevant. It was relevant when he wrote the essay, and also it's relevant now today in 2024 as well. So C is wrong in every way. The self-reliance by Emerson was relevant 1838 and also relevant now 2024 as well. Okay? Yeah. So C is wrong. So D must be the answer. As I say, if D is not the answer, I'll be in trouble. But to provide background for the concept he's explaining. Right? So remember, please think it's 1838. Don't forget. Okay? Bang. All right? So if you understand the concept of this question type, then it's worth writing down the notes when it's first played. So write down everything and then see when they play again second time, just make sure you know whether they are playing the first part or second part of this whole thing, and try to get some hint from other part that is not being said second time. That's not being asked as a question. I believe this is a great strategy. So by using this strategy, a lot of students were helped. A lot of my student used this strategy, and I had a great feedback. Many people said, because the way you solve this question, I think I got 30 out of 30 in listening part. I didn't get any question wrong. So, it's proven and tested in the field. Okay. And I use it as well. Right. So please, if you think it's a good strategy, use this to make sure to get this question type right every time. Okay, so question 6, the answer is D. All right, so that's it. All question done. Perfect. Obviously, we got every question right. And I really hope you enjoyed this edition of TOEFL Show, episode 21, covering practice test. So I gave you the full lecture on practice test 2, and I gave you the complete note-taking answers and explanation, and I gave you all my love. Sorry, I'm just joking. Sorry. I'm just joking. I'm just glad we have done this video. So I sincerely hope this video was helpful, and please keep watching, and I will come up with more great videos very soon. And I sincerely hope I can see you again in my next video. Okay. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Let's keep doing this. Thank you, guys. See you next time.